Alright, finally Season 14 arrived, and with it probably the biggest changes we've seen since the arrival of the Dragon Soul. And right now there's a lot of discussion about things like what's a strong item, what's a strong champion, what's a strong combination of the two, things like that. But there is not really any discussion about how the map changes or the new objective will change the way pro teams will play out the games. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Because since Season 10, not that much really changed, it all got more refined, I would say. When we look at teams like JDG, like T1, they got really good at all the fundamentals of the game. But there was not really a big shake-up. So right now I think this is really exciting, and I wanted to maybe think just a bit about how this will all change. So first of all, let's talk about the new objective on the top side of the map, which are the Void Grubs. And the Void Grubs, they change a bit the template on how teams played the early game out, because what we really saw is at 8 minutes Herald spawned and everything kind of gravitated towards that. So bot lanes would push out the wave, then they would rotate towards the Herald, and then the support would try to get level 6 on the mid lane wave, and then there would be a fight and we would see who gets the Herald and who can snowball the game with getting plates and things like that. So this was kind of the template on how most of the teams played. Sometimes teams would not rotate like that, or maybe they would only rotate the support. There were some variations, but in general this was always what was going to happen. But now the Herald spawns at 14, so this is when the map kind of opens up already, which means this is not longer in the game. Instead, now we have Void Grubs. Void Grubs spawn at 5 minutes, the same as Dragon. So how do they work? Basically, every Void Grub you slay gives you a stack of Touch of the Void, and what it does, it gives you extra turret damage, and at 5 or 6 stacks you get extra Void Grubs that spawn, which is basically like Beowulf when she has True Form and slays minions. So the key point really is going to be getting 5 or 6, because the turret damage alone really doesn't do that much, but the Void Grubs really help snowball and push your leads and snowball the game. And end games as well later on, because every single champion will spawn 1 or 2 depending on how much you got. If you got 5 you get 1, if you got 6 or 6 of them you get 2. And if we combine that and think about like a team grouped up with 4 or 5 people, then you have like 8 of these things going at your turret. Yeah, it's quite a lot, and it can really help out close out the games and snowball the games. Also, it gives a camp worth of XP, so junglers now have an extra neutral camp to get an advantage from and get 6 a lot earlier. Like sometimes junglers can get 6 at like 6 minutes now. So this is kind of the basics of the camp. I think in solo queue right now they are maybe slightly overrated, because you would see teammates just die for them, even though they only really get their value at 5 or 6 stacks. But I think in competitive games they will be quite crucial to end games and to like snowball games a lot. I think they will make a big difference there, and you can end games really decisively with them if you have 5 or 6 stacks. So how will pro teams play around them? I believe the second spawn will almost always be contested. They are way too strong to just give for free. The 5th and 6th stacks will really snowball games, so you will have fights there. But the first spawn, I think it depends a lot on what you want to do with your team comp and how strong you are early game. So if you think about a team comp that's really strong early and can fight and wants to skirmish and wants to snowball the game, what will almost always happen is the jungler full clears to bot lane, fights the scuttle, and then he will try to influence bot lane in some way at like 3:40 to 4 minutes. And then he's going to recall together with the support and maybe even the AD carry, depending on the situation, and go for the grubs at 5 minutes. So this is kind of what's going to happen. And yeah, the way he influences bot lane, it's much easier now with the new entrance, so you can dive really easily. You can also just help out push the wave, you can do different things. But this is what's going to happen in most games. Another option I would say is for the jungler to start Raptors and then go Crux and then Red and then go topside. Then if you have a strong topside, let's say, then you can do something there, and then you go back to your Raptors and Crux, and then you go bot, and then you help them and dive or push out. This is a bit slower, then you are just there at wave 7, So it's like 4:30 or something like that. So you will be at Grubs when you recall and then walk there. It takes a bit longer. So you're there like 30 seconds later. But the advantage of that would be that the jungler is going to have a stronger recall. He has more gold and more XP. And also you kind of protect your bot lane camps, because one of the common counter plays will be to just take the camps when he takes the grubs, because they take quite long. So these are like some options we can think about. And if both swap, the AD carry and support, then they could just stay top lane and go for the plates top, because with this kind of rotation, what you kind of do is you avoid a hard bot lane matchup. Let's say you have a really difficult lane, then you just swap both of them top lane, and this is also the exact timing when the extra defense for the top lane, which kind of prevents lane swaps, it falls off. So you can kind of do that. And then you swap your top or mid laner who has to save TP, and he will TP bot lane to catch the wave and will try to avoid the counterplay from the other team there. The counterplay from the other team, what I kind of expect, is let's say you have a team that's not strong early and wants to scale up and things like that and play for Dragon Soul maybe. What you will do is you will try to go for the bot side camps of the jungler which are up if he just full cleared bot. You will go for the dragon, which spawns at the exact same time, and then you will dive either the AD or the top laner, depending on who's there. This is kind of the counterplay you can do for the first grubs. So I think first grubs will not be absolutely essential. You have some options to play against it and then fight for the second. But yeah, I think this is how most games will go. Because the map changes were so big for top and mid, I think we will barely see anything else. Like level 3 ganks, which were sometimes prevalent, are much more difficult. Like in mid lane is much wider now, so it's hard. Top lane you don't have like the brush where you can approach and gank the red side top laner from, things like that. So I think level 3 ganks and stuff like that will happen much less. So most of the time junglers will just full clear top to bot lane. After all this, as I said earlier, the second spawn will almost always be contested. There will be some exceptions, maybe if they were taken too close to the 10-minute mark, then there is not enough time to do them before the herald spawns, or they were done after the 10-minute mark, then there is no second spawn, things like that. But if they were done in time, they will always be contested, because the 5th and 6th deck, I think they are much too valuable. They help snowballing so much more. And if we think about snowballing in general, I think this season it got amplified quite a bit, not only because of the grubs, but also because of the terrain. Now, with the map changes, when we think about them now, which is the second biggest change we have this patch, it will be much harder to defend invades and like infiltrations from the winning team. So if you are red side, you can invade top side, blue jungle much easier, and on the other side, for the blue side, you can invade the red side bottom jungle much easier. I hope that was a clear explanation. But it's much easier to go into there and establish vision and dominance and things like that. So this together with the void grubs will really help teams snowball games. Also, not only invades, also dives much easier now. Not only in bot lane especially it's really easy to see, but also in mid lane. I think dives will be much more prevalent than before. We will see dives, I think, at like 4 minutes close to every game. So teams have to stack waves really well. They have to be really precise in their gameplay like that. On the other side, while dives and invades are easier now, normal ganks, at least in top lane and in mid lane, are much harder now. So as a result, what will happen is we will have more champs that don't rely on these kind of ganks and can influence through lane ganks maybe, or just through their ultimate. Like in the jungle, let's say champs like Nocturne and Karthus will be much better. And also laners that struggle to be safe sometimes, they will be safer now, so they might rise in strength. And in general, if we don't think about the champions, but more about the players that have really strong laning capabilities, especially in mid lane, they will have a much better season, I think, than before, because jungle and support has a much harder time to influence these lanes now. It will be much harder. Of course, they can still do the things like help cover the lane or push out the lane, things like that. But just ganking, straight up ganking will be more difficult. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what teams come up with. There is a lot more to talk about, but I don't want to make like an hour-long video. So yeah, these are just some thoughts, initial thoughts I have. I'm excited to see what happens. I hope you are too. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe, like, whatever you feel like, and I will see you on the next one.